Look, I was busy. We do not have any air conditioner in the Stewart household. I might be sweating during this video. Air conditioning is coming on Wednesday or Thursday, something like that. There was a heat wave in New Jersey. I couldn't record. It was just too hot for you, but it was like 100 degrees down here in the basement. Then I had to get this camera, got the mic, get it all set up, get Husimo's ass into the basement. We were setting that all up down here. And now we're here. We have a final product. And today I'm bringing you my first video back. This is like one of my favorite things in football, fantasy football, is the year 2 breakouts. I think that it's one of the best kept secrets in fantasy football. You don't see anybody, we're not super aware of it because everyone's like, there's year 3 breakouts or contract year breakouts, but these year 1 to year 2 breakouts, we're talking DK Metcalf last year. We're talking Juju Smith-Schuster in his second year. We have Calvin Johnson. He kind of like sucked his first year. Then he came out, was a beast in his second year. We see these year 2 jumps a lot. I haven't actually sat down, dug into the research. So that's what we're doing today. And before I keep rambling, keep on going on about some nonsense, let's get straight into the video, man. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I mean, I know I'm critical. My nitty bag.
Now, before we get into the video, if at any point in time you're fucking with the content, you're fucking with the facts that I'm spitting out of my mouth, you're fucking with just the research I put in or the content in general, or maybe you just had a good time, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. It really helps out the channel. It really helps us grow in the algorithm, in just the universe, in the tangible sphere of space. But yeah, man, that really helps. And while you're down there, if you want to just be a part of this community, be a part of the channel, I really just want to kind of like, I want to just have a bunch of people that really ride for this channel, and I really ride for you guys. That's what the Discord's for. At the top of the description, join the Discord. We have like 150 plus people in there. We're talking fantasy, dynasty, redraft, doing mock drafts, grading trades, doing all kind of stuff. And that's just kind of where we're housing this community and how we're all getting better in fantasy football. Now, let me just stop rambling for a second. Let's get into the actual video here. Let's talk about the year 2 jump. And the first thing that we have to figure out when we're talking about these year 2 wide receivers is the year 2 jump even real? You know, you have DK Metcalf, he went crazy last year, but then you also had, who's that 2019 draft class? We had Paris Campbell. We had, who else is in that draft class? Paris Campbell, Andy Isabella. You know, not every single one of them is going to pop off. Andy Isabella, obviously, whatever. N'Keal Harry, obviously, trash. So not every single one of them is going to go crazy. So it's more like, is the wide receiver year 2 breakout real, or are we just seeing like monster wide receivers go crazy? So to figure this out, I got to get my money's worth, got to talk about the sophomore database that I put together on the Google Sheets. And that pretty much has like every rookie wide receiver season since 2007 that's like relevant, you know what I mean? And there's like 300 in there, but 50 of them are either 2020 rookies or they didn't play their second season. So it narrowed it down to 250 guys that I had since 2007 that played their rookie season and played their sophomore season. So I took that 250 and I filtered it down a little bit. We took only top 100 draft picks because we don't really need anything past that. You know, I don't really need the day 3 guys. When we're talking about these year 2 guys, Calvin Johnson, Juju, DK Metcalf, they're all round 1, round 2 guys. Maybe you could even go round 3, you know, like a Terry McLaurin. So I used top 100 draft picks and I charted their points per game and target share in year 1 and then in year 2 so we could see that jump. And we use points per game because that's what we care about, you know, scoring fantasy points. And the second thing is going to be target share. And that's going to kind of represent volume, and it adjusts for, you know, low passing volume. You know, 100 targets in the Titans isn't the same as 100 targets in the Seahawks offense, but 28% target share is about the same in each of those offenses. So looking at the volume stats, that stuff is a lot more sticky. I think John Daigle was talking about it on a RotoViz podcast. Shout out to John Daigle. He was saying that wide receivers kind of carry their target share around like briefcases with them, and it's true. Target share is the most sticky stat we have, or one of the most sticky stats we have. So that's going to be what we look at for volume, because I'd rather bank on volume than efficiency. And then to see what we can expect from wide receivers, you know, just like the random veteran wide receiver, I took the top 100 wide receivers from 2019 in points per game, and I found their points per game and target share in 2020. So from 2019 to 2020, what the average veteran wide receiver does in points per game and target share, and the results are kind of wild. I'm going to put the chart on the screen for a second here. So from 2019 to 2020, the average veteran wide receiver had a downtick in points per game and target share, whereas rookies actually had an uptick. And this is kind of obvious, but just seeing it played out on a chart is crazy, because you see those blue bars are the ones that represent year 1, and then the red represents year 2. It's pretty crazy because these rookie wide receivers actually see more of an increase in year 2 than the veterans even see as a decrease in year 2. So it's pretty wild that rookie wide receivers, they're getting more target share and more points per game across the board. Even the bad ones, even when you account for Paris Campbell, Andy Isabella, all those guys are in the database. Across the board, you're seeing a pretty big uptick in volume and points per game. So now we know these year 2 wide receivers are balling the fuck out, going crazy in year 2. They have a lot of production, a lot of volume to add on to year 1. Now here's the question: are year 2 breakouts king? So now we're going to look at year 3, year 4, year 5, and your boy did not do that research himself. That's when we got to go tag in Sean Siegel, Blair Andrews, 2 of the OGs, godfathers of fantasy football over on RotoViz. And this is something that these guys have been playing around with, is this year 2 breakout. Sean Siegel did an article a little bit ago where he found that the highest breakout rate among wide receivers were in year 2. And breakout rate he defined as when a wide receiver hits 200 PPR points in a single season. And the percentage of that happens at year 2 way more than the others. And you can see that in this chart right here. So as you can see by the graph, year 2 breakouts are far and away the best year to grab a wide receiver, where they're going to finally have that emerging season into 200 PPR points total. Now we know year 1 to year 2, rookie wide receivers, they see a big uptick in production. Now we also know that phenomenon of, going crazy from having that huge jump from year 1 to year 2, that happens at the highest rate in year 2. Wide receivers break out the most and the hardest in year 2. And now we want to figure out, where should we be targeting these guys? So we want to target the ones at the low end. Should we be targeting Henry Ruggs? Should we be targeting Justin Jefferson? So now to narrow that down a little bit more, we're going to put things in buckets. And I took the 250 wide receivers that I have that played in year 1 and year 2, and I bucketed them by rookie year fantasy points per game finish. And the buckets are kind of they're pretty much arbitrary, but they're good just to have these players in buckets. So we have them wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. And by that, I mean wide receiver 1 is going to be 25.6 to 16.6 points per game. That was the wide receiver 1 through wide receiver 12 in 2020. Then we have the wide receiver 2, which is 16.4 points per game to 14.5 points per game in 2020, and so on. So we put them in buckets: wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And we compared each of these wide receivers, what they did in year 1 to year 2. So now we have these players, how good they were. Little bit of a malfunction. Now we have these players, how good they were in year 1, and then what we can expect from them in year 2. And let's break it down by buckets. First, we're going to look at the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 buckets. Not a lot of players are in that area. And when you look at it off the rip, you're thinking to yourself, they all regress in points per game. Maybe we should be fading Ayuk. Maybe we should be fading Justin Jefferson. Here's the thing. There were only like 3 or 4. There was only 3 guys that fit into bucket 1, and there were only 5 guys that fit into bucket 2. Not a lot of guys are going to be wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2s in their first ever season in the NFL. So points per game is going to be not super predictive when you have that small of a sample size. You want to look at target share. And all of those buckets, wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, their target share all had an uptick. But when we're talking about the smashes, we're talking about Juju, DK Metcalf after year 1. That's going to be the wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 4 range. That's where they finished. That's where I think A.J. Brown finished. I could be wrong. But those are the ones where you see that massive jump. As you can see by the graph, and if you look at wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, those ones have the biggest uptick from blue to red. But then things start to slow down a little bit. Then we're talking about the Paris Campbells of the world, the Andy Isabellas of the world. And once we get to that wide receiver 5 range, which has 10.7 to 9.4 points per game, that's when things really start to slow down. And everything past that is kind of irrelevant. Wide receiver 5 slows down. Wide receiver 6 slows down. You see an uptick at wide receiver like 7, 8, 9. But at that point, we're getting to a point where it's irrelevant. That's a jump from 6.5 to 7.5 points per game. What are we doing with that? 6.5 to 7.5 points per game. That's not a big jump. But like 12 to 15, now we're fucking talking. So everything past that wide receiver 5 range, I'm not super interested in. Now we want to take what we just found here, and we want to figure out what guys are we going to be targeting going into 2021. And I'm going to make a part 2 video on this eventually, probably in the next week or so. But I just want to do a little bit of a preview of the guys that we want to target based off of this information. Again, this is going to be a quick breeze through. We're not going to be going super in depth on a lot of these year 2 wide receivers. We're just going to be kind of breezing through it. So let's look at the top. We have Justin Jefferson, who fits into that wide receiver 1 bucket. And those are guys like Michael Thomas and OBJ. They regressed in points per game, but I'm not going to be fading Justin Jefferson because of that. This is a super small sample size. These are literally 2 wide receivers. And the thing is that they had a pretty big uptick in target share. They averaged a 27.5% target share in year 2. Do not be surprised when Justin Jefferson comes out here, has a 28% plus target share, cements himself as a top 5 wide receiver in the league, and becomes like the next OBJ superstar type guy. That's what I think we're looking at here with Justin Jefferson. He's my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. I want to have as much as I can of him in redraft in Dynasty. I think it's going to become Justin Jefferson's season very soon. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 across the board in a lot of things very soon. He's going to be that next Odell Beckham type guy. And Justin Jefferson, he's being priced at right around where he finished last year. he's going to get a big uptick in targets. When you have these guys that come in here and produce like he did, they're going to command more and more targets. He's great in reception perception. He's great in every single stat you want to look at. He is great in. He is one of the next great wide receivers, and I will take him because I don't think he's being priced where he should be. I think that he's probably going to finish as like a top 3, top 5 guy this year. Then we have the next bucket. That's going to be Ayuk. He's the only guy who finished as a wide receiver 2 last year. And again, I know that on the chart, I might put it up again here, but the points per game, it dips. From wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, the guys that finished in the top 24, they dipped. But here's the thing. It's a sample size of literally 8 wide receivers. And the guys that finished as wide receiver 2s were Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Keenan Allen, AJ Green, and Eddie Royal. Eddie Royal is like the fucking wart on that group, but when we're talking Mike Evans, Julio, Keenan Allen, AJ Green, we're talking like elite company. Brandon Ayuk is in here, and they didn't all see an increase in points per game, but they all saw a pretty good uptick in target share. They all saw an average of a 12% increase in target share. So not 10% to 22%, but just 12% overall. So if that happens for Brandon Ayuk, he goes from like a 23.5% target share to a 26.15% target share, which would have been 6th among wide receivers last year. Now, before all of you guys come out here, rip me to shreds in the comments, I know everyone's coming at my head top when I'm talking about Ayuk's ceiling. Ayuk's ceiling, when you can project him without looking at the whole team. I know Kittle's there, I know the rookie QB is there, but when we're talking about Kittle as a talent and what this data shows, his ceiling looks something like 26% target share per game, top 12 wide receiver. That's, or not 26% target share per game, but you get what I'm saying. 26% target share, top 12 wide receiver on a team that's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to take handoffs, could probably get 2 more rushing touchdowns. Ayuk is a guy that I really want because his ceiling is a top 12 guy based on this year 2 breakout stuff, especially because he's being priced as like a wide receiver 3 in like the 6th round. He's being priced right around where these guys are. These are the wide receivers I like to target from the wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4 bucket. So that's going to be in that Juju to DK Metcalf range. We're talking about CeeDee Lamb, Chase Claypool, T. Higgins, and Laviska Shenault. Those are my 4 guys I'm targeting. I will say CeeDee Lamb a little bit less so because I think he's being priced there already. He's already in that 3rd round range. He's getting drafted like ahead of Amari Cooper, and I don't think he could jump up and have like a top 5 crazy season because that's in his range of outcomes in a year 2 breakout. But he could also just kind of be where ADP is at in that 3rd round. I still do like CeeDee Lamb. I've been taking him a good bit, but I'm really focusing on, if you want to talk about like really smashing the fuck out of ADP, Chase Claypool, T. Higgins, and Laviska Shenault are 3 guys you gotta be targeting. They not only all performed in year 1, they all have that alpha size. They could all go crazy. And I know that you can tell me about the team stuff, GJ Chark might out target Shenault. You might have T. Higgins next to Jamar Chase. That might be a problem. You can drum up every little excuse that you want, but at the end of the day, these year 2 wide receivers, they find a way. DK Metcalf, you could have said he was in a run-first offense last year with Russell Wilson. He has Tyler Lockett next to him. How many targets is he going to be able to get? He didn't even get that many targets. He was super efficient. When we're talking about these year 2 wide receivers, they're going to win on talent, not on volume, so I'm cool with betting on that. And like I said, we're going to be doing another video where I really go into depth on those guys. I'm going to pick probably 3, 4, 5 wide receivers and go really in depth on their redraft outlook, but that's just going to be a little bit of a hint, if you will, a little bit of a teaser. And then we go a little bit past that. Wide receiver 5, like I said, the guys who finish in that wide receiver 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus buckets, they don't do much, but we've seen breakouts there. We've seen DJ Chark break out there. We've seen Cortland Sutton break out in that range. And if I had to pick one guy from that range to do it this year, it'd be Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is a guy that I'm not super in love with, but I'm starting to kind of fall back into love with Jerry Jeudy. He was like my wide receiver 2 pre-draft, then he goes to the Broncos, fell down to like 4 or 5. I still do like him. He looks like a good route runner. He doesn't have that size that I want, but he probably would have finished in that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 range like the rest of these guys had he just had good quarterback play. He had a bunch of unrealized air yards on just like bad throws, bad targets, some drops. He had some things not go his way, but you could easily see an alternate scenario where he gets drafted somewhere else and he does finish in that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 bucket. So Jeudy to me is one of those other guys, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm not really targeting a whole lot of. I know that one of these guys could pop. They could do it for sure, but I'm not really touching Ruggs, Rager. I'll dabble with Rager. If I have like Jalen Hurts, I'll go for like a Rager stack. But when we're talking Michael Pittman, we're talking Henry Ruggs, we're talking Denzel Mims, I'm good on all those guys. So those are the guys to me that fall in that 6.5, getting a huge boost up to 7.5 points per game. I don't think that any of those guys have that DK Metcalf type season in them. But yeah, man, year 2 wide receivers, they are going to be a cheat code in fantasy this year. I wouldn't be surprised if like half of the guys that I just told you, maybe a third of the guys I just told you about, all have really good breakout seasons. I'm targeting all of them in Dynasty and redraft. And that's the video, fellas. Let me know in the comments down below what year 2 wide receivers that you're targeting in fantasy football redraft leagues. And also while you're down there, leave a like and subscribe. It really helps us out on the algorithm. And as always, you can follow me at @Ron__ on Twitter. I'm hoping that this audio worked for me. This is the second time I had recording this video we're going to get into the swing of things with this new setup, but I'm having a good amount of fun just sort of messing around with things. I don't know what I was looking at there, but we're at 1.3K subscribers right now. Now that we have the setup, we have the camera, we got everything going, I'm going to really kick it into high gear here, give you guys some fire content this summer. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one.
I ain't really been myself since ride past. I ain't really need that shop class. I ain't really been weak since pop smash. I'm a genius, a motherfucking pop smash. Hit Sensei, Master Jack and Lindsay, Whitney, Kim, they been paid. Shoot.